How's it going, movie and TV fans? Welcome back to another review on the channel. Today we are looking at Doctor Who Series 12, the kind of most recent series to be released and the last and final series to release, or was filmed, shot and edited before the global pandemic happened. Obviously it was released during the year of 2020, so I think it was released in early 2020, so again, like the last series to probably be released before the pandemic hit worldwide, and that's very apparent in the fact that Series 13 is half the length of this series and is all one story. So that's something to pat out there, the last series to release before COVID, but it's a major improvement on Series 11 in my opinion. Not that Series 11 was bad by any means, it just had some bumps, and there's some improvement here, and it feels almost like very well structured. But before we get into that kind of stuff, let's talk about the episodes. So we have Spyfall Part 1, Spyfall Part 2, Orphan 55, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, Fugitive of the Judoon, Praxeus, and technically that is how many episodes you get in the Series 13, the first 6. But other than that, we have Can You Hear Me, The Haunting of Villa Dotti, Diotti, I don't know how to say it, Ascension of the Cybermen, The Timeless Children, and Revolution of the Daleks, the holiday special for 2021. So, where to begin? Where to begin with Series 12? Series 12 for me is a special one because it was one where I was there every single time it aired, on top of what I was last season. I was also pumped for the release of the soundtrack for this series and the final episode of this series, Revolution of the Daleks. But yeah, I just think this is a really brilliant series with some super high notes and some super low notes. You know, the high notes, I'm just saying, Spyfall Part 1, Fugitive of the Judoon, The Haunting of Villa Dotti, and Revolution of the Daleks are the high notes. The others are okay, I suppose, and I think it's going to be an interesting series to look through. But yeah, I enjoy this series a lot. I think it's fucking brilliant, and it has some stellar moments, and everyone's on top form, and it's great to see. Anyway, let's get to this episode, Spyfall Part 1. The first thing I want to mention now is, obviously, not almost immediately, but what I like to see is them giving, instead of it being Graham and Ryan, Yaz and the Doctor, you have Graham and the Doctor, Yaz and Ryan in this episode, which is brilliant to see. Yaz and Ryan have some chemistry on their own, and they do hold the screen together quite well, which is brilliant to see. And I'm also, another thing that this episode is, you know, is the fact that Yaz and Ryan are not love interests of each other, which is perfect, and I think that's what makes this whole TARDIS team better, that you've not got these two snogging each other and then Graham and the Doctor just stood there thinking what the fuck. That's really good, and I think that's what makes this series so special. I think that's what makes these set of characters so brilliant, is that there's not a forced love pair between in there. Like, not that it wasn't bad with Rory and Amy and the Doctor, but I think it was very well done there. But what I'm trying to say is it would be very awkward and odd here if you had Ryan and Yaz together and then Graham and the Doctor just stood there. So I'm so glad they go that way, and then by emphasising that, I mean that they do mention Yaz not giving her sister Ryan's phone number, which is, there you go, it's the way they do it, but I think it's cool. This episode I want to mention that Stephen Fry is in this episode, and he is brilliant for the very limited screen time he has. You also have why is his name escaping me? As soon as Lenny Henry, that's it. Lenny Henry is in this episode as well, who does a fairly decently good, he's a really good performance. It's good to see these big name stars in this episode, you know. I love the chase scene in the car and the motorbikes is really cool, and obviously spoilers here, but the big reveal at the end of O is the Master is just one of my favourite moments of Who. I remember being there. There's another moment coming up in another episode of this series that I think is a special moment for me as well. I remember sitting there and watching that moment. But yeah, this is going to be a series that maybe a lot of people don't have issues with, especially towards the end of it. But I love this series. I love what it goes for. I think the first episode is brilliant. There's so much good structure with that first episode that I genuinely adore it so much. That Life of Part 1 is a brilliant episode. But as the series goes on, there's some other fantastic fucking episodes as well. Some brilliant episodes. Some great historicals as well. I mean, there isn't as many historicals as... I mean, I think it's a fair 50-50 split. From the top of my head, there's 2 historicals. Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror and The Haunting of Villa Dotti, opposed to what Series 11 had, which was 3 historicals. So, hey. And those 3 historicals were Rosa, Demons of the Punjab, and The Witchfinders. But yeah, obviously this series released in 2020 because Doctor Who went on another year break in between. In 2019 there was no series of Doctor Who, so there was exactly a year between Doctor Who episodes, as Resolution, the series 11 special, aired on New Year's Day 2019, and the first episode of this series, Spy for Part 1, aired on New Year's Day 2020. So there was exactly a year between episodes. And the gap between the end of this series and the special was quite long as well, because this series ended in March 2020, and then the Christmas special came out at the end of the year, so, well, and beginning of the next year, so it was quite a lengthy gap of time again between this series and the special. But we're going to talk about the special here, because fuck off and leave me alone, it's the Series 12 special. Okay, I'm not going to put 2020 to 2021 in the title of this video, but yeah. I have to admit, Sega Nakano's music here was also brilliant as well, especially the Spy Master theme, or the Master's theme, is brilliant, and I do think it's absolutely fantastic to see the Master back and portrayed brilliantly by Sacha Dhawan. Sacha Dhawan is fantastic. I had the pleasure of not meeting him, but attending the panel, the Doctor Who panel at the London Film and Comic Con a few weeks back, and he's just a delightful person just to listen to, hear the stories and stuff. And also had the pleasure of meeting Jo Martin, who we'll talk about when it comes to her episode a little bit later on. So I'll talk a bit more about that when it comes to that episode. But it was, I walked past him as well. I walked past his booth as well, but he had a fuck off queue, massive queue. But they just seemed like wonderful people, and it was really great to sit at the panel and hear them talk about the memories of Doctor Who. Obviously it was a Doctor Who panel, so they're talking mostly about Doctor Who, but yeah. Overall, I do love this series, and Spy for Part 1 is a brilliant episode that has great flow and narrative structure to it. I think the score was brilliant for that episode specifically, and all the characters have great moments as well. So yeah, this has been the start of the Series 12 review. I look forward to reviewing this series because it's one of, if not my more favoured of the recent series. I don't know which series I prefer, 11, 12 or 13. I'll have to obviously finish Series 13 because, you know, it hasn't actually finished yet. But yeah, I think this series is brilliant, and Spyfall Part 1 is another fantastic episode of that. I do love the whole Doctor Who parody, the whole James Bond parody thing, because being a big James Bond fan, having these two things that I love collide in the smallest way possible, even that was fantastic, because, you know, yeah, it's just brilliant to see the Master back again, and Sacha Dhawan is brilliant as the Master, as I've mentioned previously. But yeah, I do love this series as a whole. It's been great to talk about it. Spyfall Part 1 is a fantastic episode. Like I said, the James Bond parody, or not parody, but the James Bond influences are really cool to see in the theme music, which we'll hear when we start talking about the next part of this episode. But yeah, a great series, a great start to a great series. This is Doctor Who Series 12. I'm also just thinking that I can't actually start the Series 13 review until the soundtrack releases, so if that be next year, then I guess I've got nothing to do. Maybe. Who knows? But yeah, this is going to be a fun series review. I love talking about this series, and obviously it's the first time I've gone back to watch it since I think it's the second time I've gone back and watched it since it aired. Looking back on it nearly a year later, it is nearly 2 years later actually. Yeah, I think all of this happened 2 years ago is a bit mad, really. But yeah, this is the start of the series 12 review, and up next we've got Spyfall Part 2 review. So yeah, enjoy that, and yeah, this series is gonna be brilliant. So here is my Spyfall Part 2 review, because I think Spyfall Part 2 is gonna be, well, I haven't remembered it, but yeah, Spyfall Part 2. Right, so welcome. Well, Spyfall Part 2 basically. Now Spyfall Part 2 it does allow Sacha Dhawan to shine a bit more, and it also allows Jodie and Sacha to have this brilliant fucking chemistry that they have. And I mean, it's an episode that I think is, well, not as good as Spyfall Part 1. I still think there's some great moments to it. I think Sacha is brilliant as the Marshal in this episode, and it also proves that Jodie and Sacha have great chemistry together, and it really works off. It's great to see a little bit of historical when we go to 2 different time periods here, which is brilliant. The conclusion of the episode is also quite cool as well. I think as a whole, it's an episode that is very well structured, and greatly expands what the Doctor may think about stuff in the past that may or may not end in interesting opinions at the end of the series. But this is the episode that starts that whole thing. So yeah, we'll find out more about that much as we go on. But yeah, Sega's music here is also pretty good as well. Not any particularly memorable pieces, but like I said, as a whole, his music's been brilliant in Series 12, so I can forgive that. But I think everyone has great moments in this episode, and I think it's cool to see, like I said, the separation again of them and bringing back together and stuff. And it's good to actually see Graham, Ryan and Yaz on their own without the Doctor for a bit, and I think that makes for a brilliant addition to this episode. But yeah, this has been Spyfall Part 2. Now we're talking about Orphan 55, which is an interesting episode. So yeah, Orphan 55 now. Right, so we're talking about Orphan 55 now. Orphan 55 is one of those episodes where I actually quite like it, but I also don't like the message it shoves down your throat at the end. But I also agree with the message. It's a weird one, okay? But I love all the characters, I love the setting and the stuff, and I think that's really something it has in strong suits, but I don't think it's the best of this series, obviously not. But I think there are elements that could be worked on to make it better than, say, other ones, other episodes. But at the same time, I also feel like maybe there's enough fleshed out. The music's pretty well good actually here, and I do like the scene where they discover this Earth. That's kind of sick. But yeah, it's a good episode, it's decent. I think there's some positive things to it, but I just think that shoving that message down your throat is not a good idea. But everyone does great performance-wise. I love the setting, and it is quite cool as well. But yeah, overall, it's an episode for me personally. I think there could be a lot more explored with the dregs, I think personally. Don't get me wrong, the costumes and how they look is fucking brilliant. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things, you know, where I think maybe you could flesh those characters out a little bit more than they are at the moment fleshed out, sort of thing. But yeah, Sega's music is fun. Everything's fun around it. I think it's a brilliant concept that's not quite done to the best degree in terms of output. One of the in-betweeners is in the episode. Hang on, let me just do a quick epic Doctor Who search. Let me just do a quick epic search. One of them was in it, but I can't remember who. James Buckley, that's it, who is known for the In-Betweeners, isn't it? But yeah, it's an episode that I think could, like I said, be expanded a bit more. Don't need to do it in the future now, but I'm saying in terms of how it was made, it could have been done a little bit better. Just saying. But yeah, this has been talking about Orphan 55. Now we're going to talk about Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror is an episode I like a lot. But let's get to that when we get to it. So Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror right now. So, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. Definitely one of the highlights of the series. Again, nice to have a big, sizable cast in there like this as well. You have Nikola. At one point, you have Tesla. You have obviously 13 Ryan, Yaz, Graham, plus Tesla, Edison, and Tesla's assistant. So that's again up to 7 at one point, but that's only for a brief seconds. The Scythera. I do like the Scythera Queen. I think she's quite interesting. The Scythera theme is really fucking good by Sega Nakanola, but you know, potato. But yeah, I think the cast as a whole do a fantastic job. It's a great story. Like the sets and the visuals are fantastic for that episode, for this episode specifically. It's really cool to see Nikola Tesla. He plays so well by the actor who plays him. It's a great historical, if you ask me, and I think that's what makes one of the best episodes of the series. It's just so fantastic at what it does that it makes you think, well, how can they one up this shit if it's that fucking good, you know? Like, it's really a quality episode, like a superiorly quality episode of the series. It's so well structured as well, and the score is brilliant, like I said, by Sega Nakanola. But everyone does a fantastic job of being epic in this episode, and that's what really counts at the end of the day. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think it's an episode that greatly benefits from having a larger cast of characters than most of the episodes, so I suppose that's a cool thing. But yeah, Pogga's in chat. But yeah, it's just a a really brilliant episode of the afternoon, one of the best of this series so far. And yeah, this has been this is Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. We got the Fugitive of the Judoon next, one of the top episodes of the series. I think Fugitive of the Judoon personally is better than Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, but obviously there is spoilers, so I'm just gonna say spoilers for the coming segment, because there'll be spoilers about what happens and stuff, and I will be talking more in depth about how and where I saw Joe Martin and Sashi the One. So yeah, that will be discussed more in the next part. But yeah, Fugitive of the Judoon. Right. So, Fugitive of the Judoon. It is by far one of the much better episodes of this series. I can't lie. It's obviously, this piece of music you're hearing is from my personal favourite scene in this whole episode. The return of one Captain Jack Harkness. It's a very epic scene with very epic music. I love where he goes, "Ha! You missed me, right?" It's just kind of very Jack. It's great to see John Barrowman back, although obviously I can't really comment on John Barrowman as recently, because if I say my opinion on the subject, people will hate me. So I'm just gonna say John Barrowman. But yeah, it's great to see Jack back. He obviously has a bigger role in Revolution of Dark to the end of the series, but it's great to have Jack back. The music used in that scene and also the lighthouse scene is also fantastic. I love this whole episode. I think the way it progresses and the way it concludes is brilliant. Obviously with the spoilers, turn off now if you've not seen this episode and don't want to be spoiled. Spoilers. The reveal that Ruth is in fact a incarnation of the Doctor pre-first Doctor William Hartnell era. Well, that's what's presumed, which is very epic. But yeah, I think it's a very, very well done episode. It's great to see the Judoon back as well. Obviously being called Fugitive of the Judoon means it's there, I suppose. But you know, it's what can I say other than it's just a brilliant fucking episode. That's what I can say it is. I think it's without a doubt my personal favourite episode of this series, behind Spyfall Part 1 and Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. It's great to see bits of Gallifrey pushed in as well, and the Master being referenced as him calling as a crazy lunatic and stuff. I love to see that. Setting up the Cybermen episode, the Ascension of the Cybermen, is really cool. Also setting up the haunting of Villa Durote. Durote the Onions, ding 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 ding. But yeah, I enjoy this episode. I hope you do too. So yeah, now we're going to talk about Praxeus, because I've just watched these 3 episodes in a row. I've got Praxeus, Can You Hear Me, and the other one in a row. So now we're going to talk about Praxeus. Praxeus is fucking shit. It is fucking shit. I'm sorry. It's terrible. This is not down to the cast of the crew, or the writers, or anyone. It's just a bad mix of elements. Just are poorly told. I think the script is there, but what the issues it has is that it's not. What I can see is that the script could have been something good, but I think the way it was told in put to screen, it's one of those things where it had a great concept, but it was not very well put to screen. So it's just one of those things where I think it could I think it could have gone well. I do like the vlogger characters, I do like the spaceman and all that stuff, and I do like the bit where they're underneath the in the pile of rubbish. I think the sets are great here, the twists are quite okay. Praxeus is my favourite episode of this series, but what I can say is that there is some good parts to it. The music in Praxeus is brilliant, as is all of Sagan's music. Jodie is brilliant here. Graham particularly has some very epic moments here that I quite like, but so does Ryan and Yaz. Also, it's good to see Yaz on her own exploring and stuff. I think it's good to see it in Japan as well, in Tokyo. It was a brilliant thing to see. I can't lie, I think it's a fantastic attempt at trying to make an episode something, I suppose. Yeah, Praxeus is one I have quite a few problems with, but also I think structurally and narratively it had, like I said, it had really, really good elements that could have worked. But I think at the same time, it's weakened by its lack of ambiguity, its lack of enthusiasm, I suppose, and its lack of viable ideas. Also, I think that the whole covering of the skin thing is a bit too much for a children's show. I think it could have definitely been. It could have easily. You know, like I said, there could be some serious elements that could have really been improved. I think it, like I keep on saying, it had good ideas. It could have been. It's one of those things where, on paper, it sounds like it could be quite good, but come production, it just didn't stick the landing. It took off quite well, the plane was going quite well, but it just completely fucking missed the landing, crashed, and everyone died. So, that's a terrible analogy, but look, what I'm trying to say is it didn't stick the landing, it didn't go down too well, in my opinion. I just think it could have been done so much better. But, now we're going to talk about It Takes You... sorry, not It Takes You Away. Can you hear me? Now, I think this episode is cool because I like seeing Ryan's friend back in this episode. Personally, I think that's a really... Oh, shit. But yeah, It Takes You Away is one that I think that our two main characters for this episode, that your protagonists at least, are not fleshed out enough. But it's good to see Ryan's friend there, which is really brilliant. I think he's quite a character I'd love to see come back in other episodes. The finger thing is really fucking weird. I'm just saying, the finger thing is way too weird for anyone's liking, let alone children. So I think I have to admit, Praxeus and Can You Hear Me have some really, really stupid moments in them that cannot be forgiven and are just not appropriate for a kid show. But apart from that, I think this specific episode is focused on Ryan, and that's good, and his development between his friend. And I think this is the episode where Ryan's choice that he makes at the end of Revolution of the Daleks is first put into his head, because this episode, and Spyfall as well, part 1, he is seeing that he has this other life at home that he wants to do, and I think, or he wants to still have that, you know what I mean? And I think that is what will spur what will happen at the end of Revolution of the Daleks. But I'm not want to get ahead of myself too much there. But like I said, It Takes You Away also not for fuck's sake. Can You Hear Me has some elements that I do wish were left away. Like I said, the fingers and the creepy old man is a big no-no. I do like the small child. Wait, what? I know, I do like the I can't remember where she's from, but there's a child at the beginning of the episode, and I think she's a great character that is definitely has great development throughout the episode. But at the same time, I also think she could have had a bit more thrown into her than just someone who knows something. you know. But Can You Hear Me is just okay. Alright, it's never been my favourite episode, but I don't hate it either. So I just want to say that I think it says a lot that this episode is... I think a lot of people like this episode, but I am not one of them, unfortunately. So I have to get onto the small matter of what do I think could be done to fix this episode. And yeah, I just think there'll be more to be done to progress those characters. But this has been the talking of Fugitive of the Judoon, Praxius, and Can You Hear Me. I've actually got an actually good episode of Doctor Who, which is why I skimmed these three together, because Fugitive of the Judoon takes up most of this runtime. The other two needed to be talked about in some capacity. The Haunting of Villa Dorothy, I don't care. That's what we're talking about next, so yeah, you fucking enjoy that. Right. The Haunting of Villa Dorothy, then. I like this one. I do like the Cybermen here, single Cybermen, granted. But, and here's where it gets interesting. I do like Shelley, I do like the historical centre of it all, and I think having it being in the one house is cool, although we do see outside stuff here and there. It's not like Sonungo Conundrum. I do like that, but I tell you what, though, I do think, personally, there is a few issues. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, fuck off. Because while there's issues, I still think the script is so tight that it works, which is good. It's really good. Keep that in the big brains. Yeah. But yeah, it does mean that some characters have less impact than others, because there's again quite a lot on screen, which is cool, but also weakens it. But yeah, it's just one of those things, really, isn't it? I just think more could be done. Then it is shown, I suppose. I think the set design is fantastic. I can't lie, the set is really cool. That I can't lie about. I think that's really good. But all in all, I think there could be some things done to improve the episode in some elements, but it's a very solid episode. I do like Shelley. All of the Shelleys are good as well. I think the whole side cast of the people from that time is cool. And yeah, this has been, well, we've been talking about The Haunting of Villa Dorothy. Now we're going to be talking about Ascent of the Cybermen now. So Ascension of the Cybermen. It's great to see Jodie's first Cybermen story. It's a very, very epic story. I do like the whole concept of the Cybermen waking up and stuff, and then obviously I do like the ending where we see your boy, the Master, appear again. and do a very epic meme, which is called C. Sorry. But, you know, it's an episode that I think is the build up to what obviously would occur in the Timeless Children, but I do like the stuff where we go to, I believe it's, you know, where we see the guy in the country, I do like that. That's a cool little backstory. I am still to this day baffled as to who exactly that's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be the Doctor, but you know, beans. But I mean, Essential Cybermen has never been my favourite, but it's also not the worst. And at the time of recording, just want to let this you know because I won't be able to say this again. It's currently 5 minutes before the next episode of Doctor Who Flux airs on BBC One. Survivors of the Flux, episode 5. So I just thought I'd put that out there to age this video completely. It also means it's being recorded on the 28th of November, which it is, and it should be going out on the same day. I managed to get the whole series done in one fucking day. Go me. But yeah. But yeah, Essential Cybermen's good fun. I think it's an okay episode. Great side characters, and it's great to see Yaz be the big sort of, we can do this, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it really well sort of character, which is cool. Graham also helps be that. It's good to see Ryan and the Doctor have some time as well, because that's not a pairing that usually gets too much attention. It's usually Graham and the Doctor, or the Doctor and Yaz, but it's good to see Ryan and the Doctor and Yaz and Graham. Very, very epic memories. And this is the episode where Graham and Yaz have this nice little bit, which is nice. So, yeah, this has been Cybermen, Essential Cybermen. Up next, it is the Timeless Children. Ooh, gonna be interesting. So, Essential Cybermen is very epic. I mean, it's alright, I suppose. I mean, I love the moment where they take off, where Yaz takes off her Cyberman, and because she is a Cyberman. I got it wrong. It's in fact this episode that Graham and Yaz have the nice moment where they compliment each other. Very epic moments. Very nice. I'm very upset now because my friend has just messaged me saying, "Why are you not watching this? This is fucking awesome." While the episode's going on, and I'm sat here having to watch The Timeless Children, and now I've had to watch Revolution of the Daleks. So fuck this shit. Bastard. Fucking hoe. Anyway, away from that. You know. Sex. I think it's an interesting, obviously, look, let's be frank here. The one thing that needs to be talked about concerning this episode is the major change to the show's lore. Do I think this has ruined the show? No. Do I think it's the worst thing that's happened to the show ever? No. Do I think maybe there could have been a bit more justification to it? Yes. Do I think it's, you know, do I think it's impacted my opinion of the show? No. At the end of the day, I don't think it's that bad. I think it's an interesting change that can be explored quite well. But at the end of the day, I imagine Russell T Davies will just flick it over and say, oh, well, that was like a hoax or something. Or find a good way to just push it under the rug, I imagine. Or if he wants to, he'll explore it further, which would be a big fuck you in the face of all the people who thought it was bad, having the man that brought it back explore it further, you know, would be a big fuck you to everyone. But yeah, like I said, that moment revealing that the Doctor is in fact the timeless child is well done. And like I said, this episode I think proves more than any previous episode the chemistry that Sacha Dhawan and Jodie Whittaker have on screen is fucking brilliant. They really bounce off each other. It's so good to see these two very, very good actors and actresses just absolutely steal the screen whenever they share it together. It's just brilliant. Obviously Spyfall Part 1 and Part 2 have had moments like that, but I think it's really this episode that really shows how brilliantly cast these two are. You know, it's just that, you know what I mean. But this has been The Timeless Children, and now we're going to look at the finale of Series 12, Revolution of the Daleks. So yeah, we'll talk about Revolution of the Daleks. We'll also talk about my ranking of the series, well, not my ranking, but my rating of each episode of the series, and I'll tell you my favourite, my most favourite and my least favourite episode of the series. So yeah, that's going to happen now because we're talking about it right about now. So yeah, Revolution of the Daleks. Right, so Revolution of the Daleks, a very epic episode. I love this episode a lot. It's great to see Captain Jack back in a more wholesome role. Another thing that I love the most about this episode is Robertson, who's back, and he's so much better in this episode than I think he's just as good in both, but I like to see him back. I think he's brilliant in this episode, just as brilliant as he was in Arachnids in the UK, all the way back in 2018, boys. Now, another Dalek story, naturally. Obviously, by the title, Revolution of the Daleks, no shit, it's a Dalek story, innit, bruv? But yeah. This was the first thing I ever reviewed on Letterboxd, I think, as well, by the way, which is fun fact. I started my Letterboxd account this year, on that day, and that was the very first thing I ever reviewed, and then after that it was Bad Boys for Life. So, you know, an interesting way to start the memes. Was it? Let's have a look, see. No, it wasn't actually. I reviewed Bad Boys on, actually, no, I typed Bad Boys for Life review on day and date, but I set it for when I saw it in cinema. But I was the first one I typed was Revolution of the Daleks, so. And I'm just going to read you that review now, because I think it's quite apparent, it is quite accurate, but I'm going to read you that now, and hopefully it's still concurrent. Absolutely wonderful way to start 2021, if not a little tearful at the end. The episode is one of the best and most beautiful in the show's long history. Very emotional ending for Ryan and Graham, and the appearance by Grace at the end made it even more bittersweet. Captain Jack shines through, and his chemistry with 13 is amazing. They balance the cast brilliantly. At one point there were 6 people in the TARDIS, but it never feels overcrowded. Another thing I love about the special is Segun Akinola's music. It's some of his best work. Breakout Ball and By Fam are the best tracks from the score. Jodie is, as usual, on top form here. She portrays the Doctor's emotions well here. Also in this special is Robertson from the Series 11 episode Arachnids in the UK, and I must say he is much better here than he is in the aforementioned episode. To conclude, the future looks bright for Doctor Who, and this episode proves that. Now, is it one of the best and most beautiful in the show's long history? No. Is it a very emotional ending for Ryan and Graham? Yes. Is the appearance of Grace made it more bittersweet? Yes. Does Captain Jack shine through? Yeah, he does. And he does have great chemistry with 13. Does the TARDIS feel overcrowded? No. Is Segun Akinola's score brilliant? Yes. Is Jodie on top form as usual? Yes, she is. Does she portray the Doctor's emotions well here? Yes, she does. Is Robertson better here than he was in Arachnids in the UK? No, he wasn't. He was about the same, because I have more appreciation for it now than anyone was writing this review. But yeah, like I said, I think the Doctor's emotions are perfectly done here by Jodie. She's brilliant at that side, and that's why this one works so well. You know, I think the emotional side of the Doctor is brilliant here as well. I think the ending for Ryan and Graham is perfectly done as well. It managed to say what will happen to Yaz. I mean, like I said, as of this moment, I've not actually watched the Survivors of the Flux yet. I'm going to watch it as soon as I've... Fuck off, Battlefield 2047. Sorry. I'm going to watch it as soon as I've concluded this review. But, yeah, it's just... I do love this episode. This episode I bought on Blu-ray. I pre-ordered the Blu-ray and it arrived as soon as it came out. This is an episode that also I might want to point out. The soundtrack released digitally the day after the episode aired. But at the time we were promised a CD release later down the line, which I thought would have come out, you know, maybe mid to late 2021. We're still waiting on that CD release, by the way. Looking at you, Silver Screen, not Sega Nakanola, because he's provided you with all the necessary information to make it, but it's not in my hands, and I can't purchase it. So that's down to you, Silver Screen. Fuck you. But actually, no, you're brilliant for releasing all the music, but still, fuck you for not doing that, and fuck you for not releasing the Series 10 soundtrack, even though that's not your fault. That's actually Murray Gold's fault. But then it's also not his fault because he's only human at the end of the day. So basically, fuck everything. But yeah, this is not the end for Doctor Who. No shit. I will be covering Series 13 Flux very soon. I don't know what I'll call that video, but I've already got a thumbnail done. I've got a thumbnails for every single series that I have proposed so far. Up to I think it's hardly called The Mandalorian even. But yeah. It remains to see if I will do Harley Quinn Season 2 straight away, because I don't have a way to watch it as of now. But I will find a way. But yeah, this has been my review of Doctor Who Series 12. Before we go, there's one thing left that I have to do, and that is introduce you to carefully not open Twitter and introduce you to what I like to call a very epic moment. Well, no, you know what I'm trying to say here is we're going to go through my thoughts on the series and the specific episodes. So let's talk about that now, shall we? BBC iPlayer. Bill. So Spyfall Part 1, a 5, Spyfall Part 2, a 4, Orphan 55. 3.5 Orphan 55. Nikola Tesla's not Terror, that's a 5. Future of the Jadoon is a 5. Praxis is a 2. Just saying. So I don't know if you can tell what's going to be nominated for the least fifth episode. Can You Hear Me? A 3. The Haunting of Villa Dotte, that's a 4. Essentially the Cybermen, 4. Timeless Children, 4. Revolution of the Daleks, 5. My favourite episode of this series would have to be Fugitive of the Jadoon. Fugitive of the Jadoon. It is my favourite episode of the series. And my least favourite happens to be the episode that directly follows it, Praxis. So yeah. Series 12 was released in 2020. I remember watching it very much when it came out on my TV upstairs in my bedroom. It was so fun to watch. Being there all the time where episodes come out was fantastic. And this is not the end for the Doctor Who series review. We've got one series left. And that is Series 13, The Flux. Which we'll be talking about soon as the soundtrack for that series comes out. And yeah, this has been my review of Doctor Who Series 12. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Don't forget to check out all the other videos and stuff. And coming soon to the channel will be the Series 11 and 12 soundtrack reviews, as well as the Series 13 soundtrack reviews. The Series 13 Flux soundtrack review. Whenever it gets announced and or released. So yeah, stay tuned for that shit. And yeah, bye bye for now.